Welcome to The Engaging Life, a podcast about using engagement equity to improve your relationship building skills in your personal and professional life. And now, here are your hosts, Brandon Suba and Angela Cheney.
Well, hi there, Brandon.
Oh, Angela, what's happening?
I'm just getting ready to wrap up our CVJ here and wrap up season 4. Can you believe it?
Season 4?
3?
3? Season 3, isn't it?
I guess we're launching season 4.
We're going to launch season. Well,
yes,
don't get too excited.
correct.
We're not launching it yet. We're going to put a bow. We're going to wrap and put a bow on season 3 here today. Not today. No, because I have one more.
Correct.
So we have 2 more episodes.
2 more.
This
Right.
one and then the next one.
And we decided that we were going to combine the last 2 steps of the CVJ, which are advocate and promote, because they're relatively similar. I mean, they're just one little minor step away from each other. Sometimes they happen at the same time, and there would have been a lot of repetitiveness going on if we tried to do an episode on each. And I'm also super excited to get to our next season.
You're right at next season. I was thinking, like, just how we've kind of talked about this behind the scenes and everything. I'm like, this is going to be 2 short ones then.
Right. So
we're just going to take 2 short and put them together, and we're going to give you a full episode.
That's right. And then
today.
we can get moving on to a new topic.
If you want to check us out on YouTube,
Yes.
I always offer this. I'm wearing a polo I haven't worn in a real long time. So
We're very proud of
you
him.
should check it out. It's still relevant, I feel. It's still a good polo.
It looks very golfy.
Yep, that's all I wear.
It's still golf season.
Polos.
Still
I think it
golf
has,
season.
has a golfer on it.
Yeah.
See?
I'm wearing my favorite color, black. I'm so exciting. Actually, I have a lot of colorful clothing.
You do. You do.
I don't always go for blacks and grays. I try and go with my my coloring. I am a winter.
Oh, okay.
Which everybody gets that wrong because of how I tan and stuff. They all think I'm a summer. But when you start holding up the colors,
What do you mean? You're a winter. What am I?
I don't know.
Is it when you're born?
No. It's how you're colored and what colors bring out the best.
Oh, I can't wear yellow.
Okay, then you're probably a winter as well then.
That makes sense.
So, if you're like a summer or a spring, I don't know them all that well. Then you look good in like the beiges, and those really wash me out.
Yeah, me too.
Winters look good in basics, bright blue,
Yes,
black.
okay. I'm winter then,
Yeah.
because I'm blue. All about the blue.
There you go. And black's kind of a universal. It doesn't really look bad on anyone, but it's a basic color. So, and it's also tones too.
Okay.
I don't know. We got off on a tangent here.
We are on a tangent.
I have a referral if you would like to get your colors done because I cannot remember her name right now. She's super sweet. Darcy, maybe.
Okay.
But she's in Center Sphere.
Oh, all right.
And that's what she does. And then helps you build a wardrobe around them. And it's really amazing when you see it, held up. It does make a huge difference. But regardless.
Yeah. So.
A couple of winters sitting
there we
here
go.
with you.
As we're getting into the winter
in case
season.
you were wondering. But so let's recap quick. We've gone through the entire CVJ, which we have still not renamed. If you were,
I noticed that.
If you were on your pins and needles, waiting to see what that new name was going to be, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer.
Maybe season 4.
Maybe season 4. We're
4.
probably not going to talk about the CVJ in season 4 if I can help it, but
unless we get
I'm sure it will come into it. It is a big important part of our business, and since we will be still talking about marketing in season 4, I'm sure it will come up. So, first, generating awareness. That is step 1 in the CVJ. So that's your website, making sure people know who you are. Nobody can give you business if they don't know you exist. Yep. Step 2, driving engagement. So you're starting to get people to like your posts, comment on them, interact with your brand a little bit. Step 3, building subscribers. So this is people are subscribing to your newsletter, to your YouTube channel. So they're starting to say, I want to be informed when they put out more content because I'm starting to like them. Okay. Step 4, increasing conversion. So people are starting to buy things or at least invest a little bit of time into your business. So that could be watching a webinar, coming to an event, or it could be buying a small piece. So like us, it could be maybe they agree to do 3 social media posts a week. So that's a very small commitment to our full marketing package, but it is a commitment.
It's something.
And then 5, building excitement. They're starting to see some results from working with you and they're excited to do more. And then 6, ascend. That's normally when your prospect buys your core product, if you have one. If you do not have one, they're just upping the ante. So either buying more time, buying more services, buying more products, whatever that may be, they're ascending. So step 7 and step 8, they're hard to tell apart because the names, even I get them confused because I want to flip-flop them.
Okay.
But they're advocate and promote. So basically, advocate is when somebody's willing to tell their family, friends about working with you. So this is when they start saying, oh, I had this great experience with my mortgage loan officer. He gave me all the information I needed, always was there when I had a question, expedited the whole service, and was just a great guy.
Okay.
So that's advocating. And they're saying that to, mostly to their inner circle, but possibly to people in networking groups and people they don't know all that well if they hear the trigger. And the trigger is usually, hey, I'm getting ready to buy a house. Somebody who is in step 7 will be like, oh, I know a great guy if you don't know him. So, or if you have not chosen one yet.
Right.
Yeah. That would be the advocate stage. And then 8, promote. That's when they are actively giving you referrals.
Oh, okay.
So this is the stage that you want all of your clients to eventually get to, because basically when somebody's giving you referrals, what are they doing? They're selling for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have all of these people who are in step 8, you have an unpaid sales force is what you have. And that's an amazing step to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can just get a few of your clients there, then that just returns huge dividends. Because if you're stopping, which we've said this many times before, a lot of businesses stop after 4 or 5 because they've made a sale.
Yep.
And they think they're done. And so out with that one, on with, starting over again. But they're missing out on all of this stuff. And then they're missing out on this gold mine, which is people out there selling for you for free.
Right.
And better, it's actually better than that. Because wouldn't you much rather give somebody business because this guy is going on and on about how great they were than this guy who actually works for them and you think is selling you a bill of goods?
Well, they are. In a sense.
They're getting paid to do it.
Well, I think that's why, and I'll talk about this in the next episode too, but that's why people love the online reviews, because it's not the company, it's not the salesperson. This person is telling me this is an amazing product and they're not making money off this. Now, I guess some online reviews, maybe they are. But on average, your friend telling you, hey, you use this more, they're not generally going to get a referral fee or anything back for it. It is just, no, it was worth it.
It was so good.
Yep.
I have to tell people about it.
Yep.
Which that is the best. That is the best selling tool, if you can even call it that. So one of the terms that we like to use here in the office is that happy customers will talk about you. Mm-hmm. Successful customers will refer you.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
So, that's a big difference there, because you can make a customer happy. You can give them what they expect. Everything can go well. Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, yeah, it was great. If anybody asked me, I'd say it was a positive experience.
But they have to be asked almost very specifically, right? Yep.
But they're not going to say you have to go use this person.
Right.
But if whatever you did for them made them more successful, if they're experiencing results, and it doesn't have to be, in our case, of course, they're experiencing more business because our marketing worked. Mm-hmm. But if you're a weight loss consultant, and they had a great time meeting with you, you're really sweet, but they only dropped 2 pounds and put it right back on. They're probably not going to be referring you.
Right.
They'll talk nice about you. But if they dropped 40 pounds and are able to keep it off and their life has changed,
boom.
That's a completely different story. So keep that in mind. Happy customers will talk about you and say nice things about you. Successful customers are going to be your referrals and your promoters. And that's where you want to get people to. Yep. It's kind of that difference between being nice and being kind, which, a lot of people think it's the same thing.
I do.
And it's not.
Of course
it's not at all. Being nice is very surface. A lot of the times it's fake. Being nice is, have a good day. How are you doing? Great. How are you? How are the kids? That's being nice.
Okay.
A lot of the times it's fake. You're doing it to everybody. Being kind is a completely different level. And sometimes it isn't nice. Being kind is saying the hard thing to your friend when she's acting like an a-hole because it will help.
Right.
Being kind is sitting with someone who's in grief instead of, giving them advice on what to do, or it's a completely different level. So being a happy customer and being a successful customer is kind of the same thing. On the surface, it looks like they're the same thing, and they can be the same. A happy customer can be a successful customer,
Right.
just like being nice can also be a kindness.
Right.
But they can also differ a lot. So just because you've gotten your prospect to step 8, and by prospect, I mean by this time they're much more than a prospect, but they started out as a prospect. So doesn't mean that they're going to go out there and refer you all on their own. So don't make that mistake that I've done everything right, let them loose and let the business flow in. First of all, sometimes you have to remind them how successful they were with you. It is so easy. I'm listening to, I know I've talked about this podcast in the past, but I'm going to bring it up again because it's so wonderful.
Okay.
The Happiness Lab, if you have not listened to that, it's so good. But the last one I listened to was about the psychological immune system. And it's basically that the wonderful things that we think are going to make us super happy don't make us as happy as we think they will. And the super awful things that we think are going to ruin our lives or even just be an inconvenience are never as bad as we think they are. So life is really more here. And sometimes you'll do this with happy, and sometimes you'll do this with sad, but you almost always end up back here. So the way that relates here is if you've got a customer who you have increased their business 3 times, they have a 300% increase in their business over, let's say, a year. You would think that at the end of that year, they're just going to be screaming it for the rooftops, right? You would think that. Usually by that time, they've forgotten that they weren't successful like this a year ago. They've forgotten what that feels like. They've forgotten each of those highs where they got the new client or they popped up to that next level of sales. And they've probably forgotten that you're the one who got them there.
Blows my mind how often that does happen.
And that is human nature, psychological immune system. We are amazingly set up to adapt. And that is to both negative and positive. So, each time you hit a new high, then you just adapt. And that's the way you kind of think it always was. So that's what's happening here. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong, but you have got to have a system to gently remind them. And that can be just going over a report. Hey, remember in November of 2022, you were struggling with blah, blah, blah. Just showing them a visual of it can be something, just having a wrap-up meeting. And this can be like with us, if we reach that point, well, we're going to have to do a new marketing campaign probably because they've probably changed in that past year. Depending on what your business is, you should have some sort of meeting with them at this point. And that's when you've got to show them some visual proof, whether that's graphs, charts, whatever it may be, to show them the journey they've been on with you. Because they've probably forgotten. They've probably forgotten. And then after you show them this journey and you get them excited again, so you're going back to step 5 there, building some more excitement. That's when you ask them for the referrals.
And you do ask for the referrals.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the way you do this, it depends on so many things. First of all, what type of person you are. I'm not comfortable doing hey, can you give me 5 names of, some people do that.
I can't. No.
It's really all about the type of person you are. Again, we like to think that successful, happy customers just going to go do it on their own, but they're probably not. It can be something as little as, now that we've gotten here, it can even be a specific. I'd really love to get in front of XYZ. This goes back to all the stuff you've been talking about. I know you know them because you see them together all the time. Do you think they'd be interested in meeting with me? Could you put in a good word for me? I mean, it can be as specific. It can sound very much like a hard networking group.
Yeah.
When you're asking for these referrals. It can also be something that you're like, okay, we've done this campaign. Hey, if you could throw 2 names out that you'd be willing to talk to about our services, we'd be willing to take 10% off this next level of marketing we want you to do. So it can be built into a resell where you're offering to give them something.
Hold on, I want to specify something on that though, because we play the tit for tat game. This is remember how far we are into the process.
Right.
There is no tit for tat. I was going to say the tit has been tatted, but that
has.
does not sound good. But you've earned it. You've deposited. If we go back to the engagement, you've deposited enough to now ask
You have
for
given
it.
so much value
Yep.
throughout this step that if you don't ask for something,
You're going backwards.
you're going back and it's going to be weird. It's like they almost
Yeah.
expect, yes, they're paying you, for the services, but they almost want to give more
Mhm.
because if you've done it right, they are going to want to give back to you.
Well, have you ever been in a setting where you're not thinking, you don't have the sales mindset more or less, and someone points out, oh gosh, but that would be a really good person to ask. And you're like, oh, really? That's an easy one for me.
Right.
I think in this step, you have the opportunity to kind of train them, tell
Yeah.
them, well, yeah, because they might even say, well, what would I say to them? Oh, well,
Right.
give them a testimonial, tell them your experience.
And it's also, people get really into their own heads. So especially if you are wanting somebody in a different industry, it's possible they never even thought of it.
Big time.
You know, it's like, oh, really? You work with medical professionals too? I thought you just did roofing companies.
Yep.
So yeah, you have to get them out of their own head and their own little tunnel vision sometimes to get them to get there. But I jumped a little bit ahead here. Let's go back a
shoot.
little bit to the advocate stage.
Mm.
So this is when you're developing social proof. So basically social proof is telling a wider audience that you're doing a good job.
Mm.
Okay? And you can't be the one telling them. So social proof is other people talking about the good job that you're doing. Okay. So they're not quite to that referral stage. They're not quite to promote, but they're in this advocate stage. And that's when you want the reviews. Reviews are great social proof. Testimonials are good. I think testimonials are starting to go a little bit out because they're so, they're curated. They're not voluntary. They don't just happen. You're gathering it and editing it. And I'm a writer. I know how many people actually just write their own testimonials and then just ask for a client to sign their name to it.
We're going to talk about that. Next episode, we're going to talk about that.
Fantastic.
We're going to talk about that.
So testimonials, I don't think are as strong. What are strong are video testimonials, especially if you've got someone who's very passionate about what they did with you. If you can capture some real emotion and some real good details, that's pretty powerful. Even if they're curated, even if you're choosing the happiest people, they are still an emotional.
We're not going to pick the one that's mad at you.
Exactly.
Hey, can you pretend? So, and I do want to talk about that because what I always dislike is when in the small print it says this is a paid actor, right? When they're giving testimonials.
Oh, yeah, it ruins it.
The fact they have to legally tell you that, I feel, is somewhat of an issue because this isn't real and nobody reads the fine print, right?
Right.
So that's why I like Facebook and the more social testimonials that companies are doing, because I'm going to give it 90% of the time, it truly is a customer that wanted to share this story.
However, I will go back on that, especially when you're getting into social media and Google, all of that stuff. You're going to get a lot of angry, bitter people who are just angry, bitter people, not necessarily about what the service was that they got from you.
Right.
I mean, they could have come home and their wife had left them and they couldn't confront their wife, so they write a shitty review about the place they had at dinner. It's in this new age where people can be behind a keyboard warrior type things. How much stock do you put in those too?
Well, there was one restaurant, and this is the whole, you obviously weren't in the right headspace, and this person gave a horrible review, and good on the restaurant to say, well, we're sorry you feel this way. Can you tell us a little bit more? And the person did respond. And the dish that the person was so mad about, the restaurant pointed out, we actually do not serve that here. And this is, and I've never seen this before, and this is probably why I read the whole dang thing. The guy that was complaining goes, well, don't I have egg on my face now? And he apologized.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, that's really cool. Problem is, that was like 5 down. So somebody may just read the first one and be like, oh, gosh, their Mugu Gai Pan is horrible.
Yeah.
Well, it's a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah,
so it's
it would be.
not that bad.
It would be. The only time I'll really put a lot of stock in, now, if somebody has 1-star reviews across the board on Google, I'll pay attention to that.
Yeah.
On Facebook, if it's a consensus, so if one, and I've seen that from several restaurants in town where one person will say something and then it'll just be a flood of you're right. This place is, okay, I'll probably avoid that place. But one-offs, and especially if they're mean. I mean, you can tell when somebody's just mad. The ones that I pay attention to tend to be that I really hate to say this, but and I tried to contact their management and either they were rude or I tried to resolve this other,
Yeah.
I'll pay a little bit of attention to those. But anyway, the whole goal is people do pay attention to these things. Google pays attention to these things, to rankings. So you want to try and get those 5-star reviews, those testimonials, and then of course those referrals there after step 8. So how to ask. Again, it would be nice if you didn't have to, but you do.
You do.
People forget. They don't know what they need to do. As we have said throughout the entire CVJ, you have to continue to give value. Even at this point, you have earned the right to ask. You have definitely earned the right to ask if you've done this the right way, but that does not mean that you can stop giving value at this point. The next is to be consistent. You have to have a system for asking for these things, because if it's just whenever you remember, or it's not going to happen. Right. So it has to be built into your standard operating procedures, how you ask and when you ask. And it's also got to be very, very easy for the other person. If they have to put a lot of effort into it, they're not going to do it.
That's why I feel that 5 names. I mean, it's hard enough to come up with 5 names.
I still can't remember my husband's phone number.
You think I remember 5 people and their email address?
And then you have to find it. And then,
yes.
that's not going to happen.
No.
But even if they have to take like 3 steps to leave a review, you'll probably lose most of them after step 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it has to be that easy. And that's just the way things are. You get distracted. You know how many times I start doing something, whether that's putting things in an online shopping cart, whether that's starting to leave a review, and then I get distracted and completely forget it and it never happens.
Yeah.
And I'm a good person. I want to do nice things.
But if it's a lot of work,
that's just human nature. So make sure it's consistent and easy. And then use the platinum rule to reward them. So again, it can't be everybody who gives a 5-star review gets a $10 gift card to Scooters.
Everyone's going to give you a 5-star review then.
Yeah. Well, and then it's maybe that person doesn't like coffee. Maybe they don't want to just be another $10 gift card to Scooters. Now, there's some, caveats to this. If you're a huge company and you're soliciting hundreds of reviews, you have to have something. You can't get to know all of these people. You can't figure out that he doesn't like coffee, but he does like alcohol. Should be a bad bet.
Send you a shooter.
Yeah. But if you're a local company, if you work with clients that you're seeing all the time, you should get a good feel for how they would like to be rewarded. Whether that's, hey, can I take you out you just gave me a fantastic referral. I think it's going to turn into something. Can I take you out to lunch and say thank you? Or, hey, if you could introduce me to John over at 5-Star Roofing, that would be great. I'd love to take you out for a drink if you'd be willing to do that. Yep. Or it could be, hey, I'll give you a $100 gift card so you can take your wife out to a nice dinner. Getting to know them, to know, do they want to hang out with me? Would they rather I just give them something so they can go hang out with the people they love? Or would they rather it be a bottle of whiskey? Or would they rather it be a gift? Or would they rather it be 20% off your next purchase with us? Everybody's different. And the only way to figure that out is A, get to know them, and B, to ask.
Right.
Even here with our employees, obviously I see them every day. I'm in meetings with them, get to know them at Wind Up. And I still do the language of appreciation quiz with them. And I'm still surprised by the answers. And these are people I am around every day. I'm like, really? Acts of service is your big one. And you don't like to be praised in front of people. I never would have known that if I wouldn't have asked.
Right.
And it's not only is it okay to ask, but that's giving value to ask. How many times are you asked that? To thank you, what would you prefer? What's your language of appreciation? Is it quality time? Do you just want to, hey, man, that meant the world to me. Sometimes that's all people want. They just want the words.
I think too, and you've talked about this in, gosh, if not all the steps, a lot of them, is you're really setting yourself up to know the answer. So it's not even just I think it's a more crafted ask if you're doing this correctly, because it's not like, hey, Angela, what's your favorite thing?
Right.
It would be, gosh, we met at that coffee house that one time and you were really talking about how neat it would be if they had a bottle of wine you could crack open. How about we go grab that bottle of wine? I just think with this relationship, when you're on these steps, this isn't somebody that you're just starting to get to know. You know them.
You should.
To an extent.
Yeah.
So I think you could craft a better ask than just a blunt.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's going to really provide value because it showed you have listened.
Yes.
Throughout all this.
And you can kind of do a little, hey, I noticed that you really enjoyed, our coffee date and that you're really into the Sumatra blend. So I would love to reward you. Would you rather have a bag of that to have at home, or do you want to go try out the Sumatra at another place?
Cool.
And then they'd be like, whoa, they remember that I like the,
And that's another testimonial they'll throw out, or another advocate piece that they'll throw out.
Or they can help you learn more and be like, yeah, it's just having one of those days where I need caffeine. I'd really prefer a beer.
Yep.
That could happen too. But so now you've got these testimonials, you've got these referrals, not the referrals, you've got the reviews. So what do you do with them? Got to do something with them. Now, sometimes they've already done something themselves. If they're leaving a review on Google, it's up there.
Yep.
There's not a whole lot that you need to do with it, but you can optimize your Google profile. Make sure the big ones are, the best ones are coming up first. You can't delete bad reviews, but you can try to bury them under other good reviews. You can make sure you're responding to them. So you can optimize your Google profile to make sure that those are being seen. Put them on your social platforms, of course, and then put them on your website. So there's definitely plugins where you can make sure that those Google reviews are shown on your website. The testimonials, of course, those should go right on your website where people can see them all the time. But you got to get them in there.
I want to take it a step further because we talk a lot about trades.
Yep.
And I come from a trade sales background. I will tell you, if you have a binder of stuff, because we had before and after pictures and testimonies and all that, it blew my mind how many people went through them.
Really?
And I knew that they went through them because sometimes they would even refer or reference, this letter said this, and it was like a beveled edge. And they were like, you didn't mention that. And I'm like, okay. And then they would ask about the before and after. So, I mean, when you have somebody measuring something in your house for 20, 30 minutes.
They have to do something.
Yeah. And it's always awkward, right? Oh, hey, do you want me to move? Sorry, my dog bit you.
Right.
So I did learn. And so I would strategically try to have good stuff in there that they would go through. So just another place to use them.
Yeah. Very good idea. So now we have to move on to the relationship.
Of course.
Because I have to.
This is the engaging life.
Exactly. And so what do steps 7 and 8 look like in a relationship? Well, by this time you're in a committed relationship, whether you're married, whether, you're just a significant other, but you're in a committed.
You've been together for a while.
Yeah, committed. But this is the step where you're willing to defend that other person. You've got their back. Somebody's talking shit about them. You're going to be right there to say, nah, that's not true. And basically what it is you've become a team. So there is and this is a really powerful concept that on the surface it sounds kind of stupid and self-explanatory, but when you really think about it, in the best relationships, you've got a you and you've got a me, and then there's the relationship. It's like a third party. And so when a relationship works, you're not thinking what's best for Angie, and you're not thinking what's best for Brandon. You're thinking what's best for the marriage or for the relationship. And usually it's something different than what would be best
for each. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And not to say that every single decision has to be made like that, because there does need to be some give and take. There needs to be, okay, this has to be an Angie. Yep. I need this right now, or he needs this right now, or I need some time. It might not be the best for it, but I need it to put back into. But knowing that there is this third entity that you have to make decisions, what's best for this. That's what you're getting to when you're to the advocate and promote stage. And also, if you get to this stage, and if you've gotten to the stage, it's gone well, you're also willing to advocate and promote for relationships and for,
I like that.
Marriages in general, because if, everybody knows that for some reason, no, it's become more women than men lately, where I'm getting married. Oh, are you sure you want to do that? Or, who needs men?
Oh,
that sort of thing.
Yep.
Those bitter people who's like, okay, where'd you drop off the CVJ there? Think you never got past awareness.
Too.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but if this has all been done properly in a relationship, you are that advocate, that promoter. You're like, hey, when a marriage is good, this is one of the best things in life, and give it a shot. This is, you're a promoter of that. So, so this is the focus onto becoming one, and knowing that if they fail, you fail. And having each other's back. And I just wanted to read this thing. It was funny because I was finishing up my notes and I saw this on Facebook. But I thought this was a really good way to zip up the relationship part of the CVJ. Okay. To love someone long term is to attend 1,000 funerals of the people they used to be. The people they're too exhausted to be any longer, the people they grew out of, the people they never ended up growing into. We so badly want the people we love to get their spark back when it burns out, to become speedily found when they are lost. But it is not our job to hold anyone accountable to the people they used to be. It is our job to travel with them between each version and to honor what emerges along the way. Sometimes it will be an even more luminescent flame. Sometimes it will be a flicker that temporarily floods the room with a perfect and necessary darkness. Oh, that was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
It's like when you commit to someone for life and you have the marriage, the relationship that is a third party, it's not always going to be fun.
It's not.
They're going to change. You're going to change. But that's the joy of it, is if you can navigate that together and be that person's, safe place to land, but also their challenger. And that's a pretty cool thing. It's not easy. And sometimes it sucks a big one.
Yep.
But it's worth it.
It is.
It's worth it. And as is taking your customers through the entire 8 steps, it ain't always easy.
Nope.
It is a lot of work, but it is really, really, really worth it in the end. That's all I got.
I was like, I hope you don't go any further, because that's perfect.
That's all I got. So
Perfect.
Thank you so much for joining us through the steps of the CVJ. We've got one more coming up from Brandon in season 3 here, and then we'll take a short hiatus before we launch our season 4, but we look forward to seeing you next week on the Engaging Life podcast.